September 20th, 2023. Statement from Wallagga Elders Council of Minnesota, WECM. Subject: a persistent call for peace in Ethiopia in the new year. Ethiopia celebrated its New Year, 2016 on Tuesday, September 12, 2023, which has its origin from the Julian calendar, 7 years behind the Gregorian calendar from September to January and 8 years from January to 11th of September. There are about 13 different calendars used in the world, of which 6 of them are still used mainly based on their religious background. Of all of them, the Gregorian calendar is the most widely used. It is a practice and has become normal that people express Happy New Year wishes to one another. Over the last few days, we have been reading and also hearing people in the diaspora from Ethiopian background as well as from back home exchanging the best wishes in the new year, which they do every year. But if we pause and think what happy or happiness is for the ordinary people in that country under the present situation, in which probably more than 99% are suffering because of the lack of peace? Most of the population are suffering as they don't have anything to feed their families, young and old. They cannot move around to fetch something for their families. They cannot cultivate the land to earn their still meager resource as they used to do for generations, due to lack of peace in that ancient land which used to raise her hands up to God. They do not know when their children and they themselves are taken out from their homes and killed in front of one another. Let us take a moment and think that how many innocent people were killed on Monday, September 11th on the eve of the New Year, at Ayana in Wallagga, for example. How many were being terrorized by the sound of gunfires instead of being in the spirit of celebrating the New Year? Of course, still there were a small number, who probably were not affected by the situation, the reality on the ground because of the positions they hold and enjoyed the occasion. We, the members of WECM humbly and earnestly call upon all peoples of goodwill, as we have been doing, to immediately take initiatives to make the call for peace the number one focus of the new year, for the sake of the ordinary people of Ethiopia. Our call is to the Prime Minister and his government, the Ethiopian Parliament, the various opposition parties and movements, at home and in diaspora, the elders of the country, leaders of all religious groups, not to be silent when millions of our people are suffering in front of our eyes. Of course, we all know there are anti-peace groups who are driven by old nostalgia of dominating other people who are now engaged in constantly spreading the venom of hatred among peoples, especially against our Oromo people, particularly people of Wallagga. The terrorist groups so-called Fano have been crossing the Nile River over to Haro Guduru and eastern Wallagga zones, are engaged in killings and terrorizing our people. Even there are reports that they killed more than 30 peaceful children, women, and older people in place called Ayana, taking them down from a transport bus. It may seem naive to talk of peace while we witness all these atrocities taking place against our people. What they and their supporters back home and enablers in the diaspora are engaged in is not going to keep the unity of the country for long. If they think that is what they want to do in the 21st century, well, it should be clear to everyone that our people have their God-given rights to defend themselves and their territory at any cost, whatever some shamelessly in public claim that it is theirs. Traditionally, the Oromo people have been and are welcoming and caring people, including for the ancestors of the current invaders and killers when they migrated over to Oromia and the southern regions during their time of need starting as far back in 60s, the 70s and 80s. The other question is, where is the government, which is supposed to protect its citizens, when this happens against the people it is supposed to protect? It seems counterintuitive that rulers don't learn from history. Once they come to power, they totally forget that it shall all pass one day. We have seen people in power, even in Ethiopia, in recent decades who were never imagined that they were going to go, but have come and gone. It would have been wise and noble to use their position that God has put them in to serve and protect the people instead of killing and ruling over them with iron hands. Let us all pause and think what we are engaged in, feeding our egos, destroying the country while the ordinary people suffer. Again, our humble call to all people who are in any kind of position, starting from the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, should immediately stop this madness and engage in addressing the danger the country is in and try to solve it peacefully. There is an applicable verse in the Christian Bible where the Apostle Paul in his letter to the Galatians 5 verses 15 to 25 warns, "But if you bite and devour one another, take heed that you don't consume one another." Certainly, the situation the country is in now seems to be on the verge of consuming one another. We also plead to our friends, and to the international community, to get involved and help to save Ethiopia and its people from the unending predicament of the time. There is an Oromo singer who sang Naga Dibani, Naga, meaning we are thirsty for peace, peace. Friends, let us not remain silent while our people suffer. Let us dare to wake up and work for peace for our people, the focus for the new year, and hopefully wish one another a true, happy new year, with peace for our people. Glory to God in the highest, peace on earth, peace in Oromia, peace in the whole country of Ethiopia, and goodwill among all peoples, which will lead to the peaceful coexistence of all peoples in Ethiopia. WECM. September 20th, 2023.